The number one reason you're still skinny fat and can't make any progress is because you don't have a smart, structured plan specifically designed for you. And that's exactly what this video is going to be about. But when you don't have a structured plan, it's going to cause things like you being undisciplined and not being motivated for the gym. It's going to cause you to go through too many bulk cycles and cut cycles because you don't have a process to actually follow. You're going to probably refuse things like tracking your calories and macros, and you might even be demotivated to actually work out. So that way when you are working out, since you don't have a plan, since you're confused and you have no structure, you're demotivated and you're not putting your all into the workouts because you don't know if it's actually working. And then that just sucks because then it just leaves you having no change. You're not losing fat, you're not building muscle, you're not getting more toned. You know, you're trying this diet, that, that, the YouTube videos like this one, but you know what I'm trying to say. And then you just fall off and then you'll try again like 3 months later. That sucks. So the big problem people aren't realizing is they're so focused on trying to lose a fat and, you know, tone up and stuff like that. So they're trying to do this cardio, they're trying to do this diet, keto and all this stuff. But the problem is you're not overweight. You're not fat. You're not overweight. You're under muscled. The reason you're not toned and can't look more defined is because you don't have enough muscle to tone the fat to. So you're essentially just toning the fat to bone. That's why you're not getting those striations. That's why you're not getting those pronounced like muscle bellies. You know what I'm saying? You need muscle. And if you don't believe me, here's my best friend Angelo. So he started skinny fat, not a lot of muscle, very, very pudgy, and then we built muscle, and that's the middle photo, and then we cut down the fat. And that's the same exact process that I'm gonna take you through. But we had to spend that time building muscle, or else what would happen? If he didn't build that muscle and he lost some of that fat, he would just look smaller but not have definition. And I know that that's one of the problems you guys are dealing with because the same thing happened to Angelo until we got him on structure, until we built him muscle. So the big question is, what is this structure and how do you build an optimized plan for yourself? That way you can start getting results like Angelo did. Now a little disclaimer. Everyone is different and everyone's going to require their own specific plan. So since I don't know you and I know nothing about you, I don't know your age, weight, height, starting point, I can't help you with that. But what I can do is give you a few guidelines of what to add to your structure that's going to help tremendously because I know a lot of you guys aren't even doing the first step. And what that first step is making a daily log, journaling how you're doing and the progress that you're making on a daily basis, because I'm telling you, that's going to start to indicate where you're messing up at. But if you never start doing this, you'll never start figuring out where you're specifically messing up at, like why you're so tired, what foods are, you eating that's causing this, I feel tired on these days specifically. You're never going to figure that out, and you're never going to make those little tiny adjustments that's necessary on an individualized basis that's meant to transform you to skinny fat, to ripped and defined. So you have to log. You're going to have to journal. I mean, shit. For example, I have 3 journals as we speak right here. Different skills for different goals. I'm telling you, there's a saying that goes, what's measured is managed. Basically meaning the more data you have on something, the more you're going to actually visibly see what's going wrong, and then you can actually make those changes to what's going wrong. So what's measured is managed. You have to log, you have to daily reflect. What do you actually do? Like, how do you actually do that? So I just wrote down like a simple little daily reflection thing you can start doing to start this process going. Again, it's all about starting. You don't want to, sometimes it's not best to have this perfect plan that's super in depth because you're not going to actually follow it. Information overload is a real thing. So here's just a simple thing you could just start doing right now. So I would split up your daily log, simple as this. Write down the date, and then did you stick to your calorie and macro split? Because that's important. You're going to have to do that. So just check it off, and I'm going to show you why. But just write that down. Check it off. Did you train today? Check it off. How hard did you train today on a scale from 1 to 5? And then I'll be like, 1 is like the worst. 5 is like, oh my God, it was the best workout I ever had. You should be having those workouts, those 5s every single day, by the way. And then what you would do is like tally up all those points. So did you track your calories? Yes or no? Yes, that's a 1. Did you train? Yes or no? Yes, that's a 1. How hard did you train on the scale from 1 to 5? Let's say it's a 5. Boom. And then 7 out of 7 points. Let's say you can get 7 out of 7 of a score. And then what I would do is write a daily reflection of how you failed, maybe what was going on that specific day. Because if you're making these daily reflections, it's going to give you an even in-depther scale of what's going on. So like, for example, let me explain. Imagine for some reason Tuesdays and Thursdays every single week reoccurring for the past year. Let's say you've been writing down these logs that you've been feeling like shit every Tuesdays and Thursdays. For some reason, you're just demotivated, low energy, yada, yada, yada. Come to find out, you realize because you've been looking over your daily vlogs that holy shit, these foods every single Tuesdays and Thursdays, so maybe that's the reason why I'm feeling like shit. So let's say you decide to take them out for the next week. Boom, next week comes around and you're feeling like fucking Superman in the gym because you cut out those foods. But you would have never figured that out if you would have never been writing that kind of stuff down on a daily basis. So it's going to help figure out the problems you're running into so that way you can make those little tiny adjustments. It's going to help reinforce the good things that are happening because you should also be writing down the good things. It's going to help you stay more accountable because you're always doing this on a daily basis. It's going to help you stay more motivated because you're doing this on a daily basis. And just this step alone can literally transform your physique, but you have to do it. Like, you should not fucking skip this part, and you shouldn't go to step 2 if you're not willing to do this. And if you do skip it, that just goes to show you you're not actually taken serious and you don't want this. You don't want to transform. Okay, so now that we've talked about the mental aspect of things, you're gonna have to do the physical aspect of things, and that's like the physical things you need to do, the plan you need to actually follow to get to where you want to be and transform that skinny fat physique. In order to do this, I have my clients split up this structure in between 2 different phases. Number 1 is going to be a lean bulk phase where you spend a period of time building muscle. I recommend you stay in this period for about at least 6 to 12 months, but it's really recommended to do like 3 years because it takes a long time to build muscle. And then, so you go from the lean bulk phase into the cut phase, and that's where you would want to maintain muscle and lose the rest of the fat. And that's how you go from, like Angelo, where he started to where he ended. Now, in order to do these phases correctly, you're gonna need to track your calories and you're gonna need to learn about macros. Now, I'm not gonna go super in depth about how to make your specific macros and calories. I would write that question down and figure out how to do that by yourself. But what I'm gonna show you is the structure that you would need to follow in order to do so. So, when you're in the lean bulk phase, since you're gonna be spending a long time in this phase, most of your time of your transformation, again, let's say 6 to 12 months, because most people can't do it for 3 years and delay that gratification for like 3 years. So let's just say 6 to 12 months. When doing this, you want to put on enough weight to allow you to build muscle, but not get too fat. And eat enough calories where you're eating at about 0.5 pounds, so half a pound per week, and you're gaining that amount of weight per week. You don't want to go like 1 to 2 pounds. I mean, you can do 1, but you don't want to do 2 pounds per week because you'll just get fat. You don't want to go like 0.1 pounds per week because it's going to take forever to build muscle. So that's how I would split up your calories. Now, when it comes to macros, again, we're optimizing for muscle building and we're not worried about the fat right now. In the lean bulk phase, you should not be worried about losing the fat. With that in mind, since we're building muscle, you need to optimize your macro split up for performance and recovery. So what macros are is just the breakdown percentage-wise of where you're allocating your calories at. So let's say you're eating 3,000 calories. Your macro split would be something like 30%. 30% of those calories go to proteins, 35% of your macros go to carbs, and then the other 35% goes to fats. Realistically, I would stick with that exact macro split up for your lean bulk phase. Again, you're gonna have to figure out how many calories you need to eat in order to gain 0.5 pounds per week, and then start with that macro split up because that is a balanced macro split that works pretty well. Now, what you should do, which I can't do for you because I don't know who you are, I don't know your age, weight, height, your starting point, or any of that, I can't give you an optimized macro split up that's personally designed for you. If that's what you're looking for, click the link below and we could talk about getting one-on-one coaching set up for you and a game plan that's optimized set up for you. But if you're doing this on your own, then what I'm gonna say to do is learn how to optimize yourself. Like we talked about, you should be planning on doing those daily reflections and having your daily logs of your days to get to your goal, to get that transformation you want. Now, what I would do is start with those macros that I just gave you, and then on a week-to-week basis, optimize that macro percentages to give you the best performance in the gym. So how I would go about this is I would keep your protein macro the same at 30%. That's a pretty good place to just stay at. And then you want to optimize for carbs and fats. So let's say the first week you start with the balanced macro split I gave you. Then the week after, maybe you should increase your carbs by 5% and decrease fats by 5%. So it'd be 40% carbs, 30% fats. See how you feel that whole week. Maybe you would want to test it for 2 weeks to really get good, accurate data. You know what I'm saying? If you feel good, maybe you should try to do carbs again and increase the carbs again and decrease the fats again. See how it makes you perform. If you perform better, then you know you're on the right path. And then there's that like golden point that you want to stay, where you just stay consistent with those specific macros and then just ride out the rest of the time you spend in the lean bulk phase, because you know that that's the most optimized nutrition plan that you could be eating. Now, this is going to take some trial and error. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to mess up a few times, but you know, that's part of the game. If you don't know how to do this, it's going to require you to learn how to track calories, to learn really all this stuff and spend that time learning about it. So, you know, I would just write down questions you might be confused about and look up other videos that have to do with that, so that we can learn how to do it. If you don't want to go through that process, again, click the link below and we can set up that coaching call between us where I do this for you. But if not, and you don't mind spending that extra time doing it, then do it for sure. So a quick summary of what you should be doing is, number one, create that daily journal log that I just made for you and actually do it. Number two is set up your calories, eat enough calories to where you're gaining 0.5 pounds per week. And then number three is start with the balanced macro split I gave you and then optimize it on a week-to-week basis, so that way you can get your personalized, optimized nutrition plan that's going to help you perform better in the gym. Again, we're optimizing for performance because we're in a lean bulk phase, because we're focused on building muscle. I was going to go into the next phase, which is phase 2, and that's cutting off the fat while we maintain the muscle. But I don't want to overload you with just too much information. So what I would do is I would just start taking action on this specific step first before you even try to do anything else. By trying to find the perfect plan, the perfect things to do, sometimes that can lead you to inaction, and you don't want to do that. So what I would say to do is just apply this step, stay in the lean bulk phase for 6 months, a year, 3 years, and then go from there. If you guys do want a part 2 to this video, just comment down below, and I'll definitely make that for you guys. But yeah, if you're skinny fat, you should be focused on building muscle, not losing fat.